Welcome to New Orleans Jazz National Historical Park's virtual performance series. The mission of the park is to serve the nation as a global leader in the dissemination of New Orleans jazz by enhancing and instilling a public appreciation and understanding of the origins, early history, development, and progression of this uniquely American music art form, jazz. In celebration of National African American History Month, New Orleans Jazz National Historical Park is proud to present the Jason Marsalis Quintet. Jason is the son of pianist and music educator Ellis Marsalis and his wife Dolores, and the youngest sibling of Wynton, Branford, and Delfeo. Together, the four brothers comprise New Orleans jazz royalty. For the performance, host Nick Spitzer interacts with Jason, who is centered in front of a church organ. The space also contains wood flooring, sound panels on the walls, and recording equipment spaced throughout to capture the concert. The band is spaced evenly within the space, with Jason leading the show from behind his drum set or vibes. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this very special musical presentation.
We were talking about your father a little bit before, and over the years we've talked. And I wondered, do you think of him as somebody that is a nostalgicist in any way? Because I always thought he was pretty hardcore about the facts and history. And there's so many song titles. We got one coming up called Nostalgic Impressions, and there's a lot of romantic titles in his list. But what's your sense of being close to the man, of his nostalgia or his just straight ahead qualities?
Yeah, well, he was really holistic, I think is the best way to put it. Like he's one that has a holistic view of the world and of people, and even with the music, he would look at it in terms of how it related to things going on around the world. I remember one statement he made to me years ago when we were having one of these discussions, and I remember him saying, "Well, yeah, man, when Louis Armstrong was making those records with the Hot Five, man, Henry Ford and them was cooking, And I was like, oh.
Timelines.
But he was talking about just in terms of the level of creativity that was going on, not just in the music, but also just in the auto industry and things going on across
in culture
America.
and history and commerce and society.
Yeah. And so the way that he is that when it came to music, the history was very important, but he would also look forward and also keep up with current things that are going on, like even during the time of the 1970s, and even the 1960s, there was a lot of pop music of the time that he was aware of, and even of the 70s, and sometimes he and I would have these discussions, if there was a tune from the 70s that I might know, he might ask me, well, how is it that you heard that? And I said, well, I heard it from there. So there were a lot of those things that he was aware of. So the history was something that was very important, but he also moved forward as well.
How about you? What is it you best appreciate about your father's music?
I think for me it would be the variety and the different moods, and the fact that he never took melody for granted. Because that can happen nowadays, but that's another conversation. That's the thing.
We got some guys to help with melody here tonight.
So that's the thing, and I think that he had such an understanding of music, just as a whole, and I can hear that even with how his playing evolved. Like if you hear a recording of him in the 1960s and then a recording of him in the 1990s, you hear all this music that has happened since that time in his playing.
That he's been hearing, and then he makes it his own, does his thing, and sounds. So set us up for Nostalgic Impressions.
Yeah, so this was a tune that he wrote in the 1970s for a band that he was leading that he called the Elm Music Company. And from what I understand, I think someone once asked him who had heard the band play live, I think they asked him, well, how is it that everything that you guys play is in thirds or is diatonic? And he said, he had to think about it. And he realized a lot of tunes they had been playing were diatonic. They were doing even then, they were doing some popular tunes of the time that group would do. So he decided, well, let me write something a little bit outside the mold, sort of. So he came up with this tune, and little did he know that was a tune that would, influence music really for generations, especially his second son, Wynton. This tune had a big mark on a lot of his tunes.
All right.
And so this was a tune that was on the Fathers and Sons album and actually has been recorded a few other times. This is entitled Nostalgic Impressions.